Yeah. Okay, we go. Go. We're good.
You're muted, Ted. There you go.
Got it. All right, we got YouTube is running now. Why don't we get started? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Commission, the City of Danbury, May 25th, 2021 at 7:30. Let the record show we will begin with the roll call at 7:42. Mr. Amida. Here, I see him. Ms. Fay. She says here.
Here.
Mr. Hawley.
Here.
Ms. Hylinski.
Present.
Mr. Jowdy, he called, he will run a little bit late tonight. I'm going to put down on his way. Mr. Kelly is absent. Mr. Mazzy is absent. Mr. Malillo.
Here.
Mr. Eriquez.
Here.
Mr. Marchand is absent. Mr. Nejame is absent. And I am Chairman Haddad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right? 7? 7. I just got notice of a new Zoom update. Okay.
We all did.
Second. Okay, that was from somebody else. All right. The next regular meeting is scheduled for June 8th, 2021. If we would all rise and join Mr. Malillo in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance,
the
flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and
liberty,
justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Commission members, everyone should have received the minutes of the May 11th meeting.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to seat Mr. Eriquez for someone for tonight?
Let me do that. Mr. Eriquez, why don't we sit you in for Mr. Kelly for the entire evening?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Calitro. Minutes from the May 11th meeting. Is there a motion to accept? Ms. Hylinski.
I gladly make that motion. The minutes were fabulous.
Thank you. Who did them anyway? It's a motion by Ms. Hylinski to accept the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Fay. Any discussion, changes, deletions, modifications, alterations? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I'm not hearing any opposition, so we're going to say the minutes were accepted unanimously. Before I get to the legal notice, let me just make a couple disclaimers and announcements. This meeting is a Zoom meeting, as you know. It is not in the council chambers. I think shortly we will be there. And this meeting will run just exactly the same as it would if it's in the council chambers, except it will run a little bit on the slower side. We will look for hands, we'll look for voices. Everybody will keep their mics muted during this when the speaker is speaking. The way it runs is we're going to have read some evidence and some statements into the record. We're going to hear the petitioner speak in favor. We're going to hear anyone else wishing to speak in favor. We're then going to go to the opposition. We're then going to go back to the petitioner to see if they have anything to rebut. We're going to hear from the staff to see if there's any final comments. At that point in time, and as always, commission members may ask the petitioner or anyone speaking in favor or opposition if they have any questions of them. And then there's going to be one of two things that's going to happen. A motion will be made to continue the public hearing, or a motion will be made to close the public hearing, at which point in time we will do that, act on it, vote, and move on. I'd like to get a motion to pass the gavel to the vice chairman is not here this evening. I think the next in line due to seniority is Mr. Melillo. I'm going to be recusing myself on the first public hearing. So can I get a motion to pass the gavel, for me to pass the gavel to Mr. Melillo? Ms. Hylinski, microphone is off. I read her lips. She said so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fay. All those in favor by saying aye.
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 Mr. Melillo, would you please start from the beginning on the first public hearing?
Sure, no problem, Mr. Haddad. And so let the record reflect that Commissioner Haddad is recusing himself from the public hearing item number 1. He and I had already talked. He's muting his microphone and his camera, signifying as though he has left the meeting. This is the petition of Berkeley Insurance Company and Compass Health Connecticut Real Estate LLC to amend the master plan of the reserve for tax assessor's lot number B15005, amend phase 9B, non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of the residential development from 100,000 square feet of commercial use to 100,000 square feet as a physical medical facility inpatient use. This is the March submission. Ms. Reed, do you have the legal notice that you can read into the record? Or Ms. Calitro, one of you? I don't have that.
I don't have it. Sharon, do you have it?
Hold on, I'll have to find it. Hold on one sec. Just give me a second. I gotta get you your email.
Okay.
Legal notice for tonight's meeting. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing notice, legal notice applications to be heard by the zoning commission at public hearings in a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom on May 25th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Agenda to be posted will include instructions to access the Zoom meeting and the application materials. Public hearings pursuant to Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7L extended by Executive Order 11. Notice is hereby given that the following petitions will be heard. 1, petition of Berkeley Insurance Company / Encompass Health CT Real Estate LLC to amend the master plan of the reserve for tax assessor's lot B15005, amend phase 9B, non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of the residential development from 100,000 square feet of commercial use to 100,000 square feet of physical medical facility inpatient use, March submission. Number 2, petition of Newtown Road LLC / Maria and Manuel Andre, Whitney Avenue, Assessor Lot K12254 for change of zone from RA8 to CG20, March submission. Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, posted on the city website and sent to the town clerk on May 10th, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Calitro. For convenience sake, I'll do the rest of the reading. I'm going to start by noticing that this was referred to WestCog. We did get their standard reply that this is with local interest with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it's not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities. The Planning Commission recommendation. This is to Theodore J. Haddad, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold D. Finaldi, Jr., Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission, regarding 8-3A referral petition of Berkeley Insurance Company and Compass Health Connecticut Real Estate LLC to amend the master plan of the reserve for tax assessor's lot number B15005, amend phase 9B, non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of the residential development from 100,000 square feet of commercial use to 100,000 square feet as a physical medical facility inpatient use, March submission. At the web-based Zoom meeting held on May 5th, 2021, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above reference petition a positive recommendation for the following reasons, and having found it meets the criteria for approval in sections 4H3C of the zoning regulations. Number one, the proposed amendment is consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD, and the purpose for which the site was rezoned to the PND zone. Number two, the proposed development is in substantial harmony with the surrounding area and will not result in any negative impact on the health, welfare, and general safety of the public. Number three, the existing and proposed streets are adequate to support anticipated traffic volumes at acceptable levels of service, and municipal sewer and water service adequate to serve the proposed PND can be provided. The motion to give this a positive recommendation was made by Mrs. Hofstetter, seconded by Mr. Urice, and passed unanimously by roll call vote with ayes from Mr. Chiocchio, Mrs. Hofstetter, Mr. Salvain, Mr. Urice, and Chairman Finaldi. And we have the City of Danbury, to City of Danbury Planning Commission, City of Danbury Zoning Commission from Sharon B. Calitro, Planning Director, dated April 29th, 2021, regarding the petition to amend the master plan for the reserve parcel 9, Berkeley Insurance Company and Compass Health Connecticut Real Estate LLC. We have received a petition to amend the 2016 addendum to the 2004 revised master plan for the reserve to revise phase 9B from 100,000 square feet of commercial space to 100,000 square feet of space for an inpatient physical medical facility. Phase 9B is comprised of tax assessor lot B15005 and is approximately 13.7 acres of the 545.8 acres reserve PND site. While the master plan for the reserve refers to the parcel as phase 9B, the legal description and recorded TC map 12704 identifies the parcel as revised development parcel 4B. The petitioner indicates the reason this petition should be granted as follows: to establish a physical medical facility inpatient to supplement existing treatment options for residents of the community, thereby promoting general health. The PND zoning regulations were amended in 2020 to add inpatient physical medical facilities to the list of allowed non-residential uses in sections 4H2B3B3. The proposed use is therefore allowed in the PND zone. However, to allow the use on the reserve site on the phase 9B parcel requires the zoning commission to amend the approved master plan, since prior approvals designated this phase for other non-residential uses. The petition includes revised language for phase 9 as noted to pages 3 and 4 of the 2016 addendum to the revised 2004 master plan for the reserve as annotated, as well as a revised phase plan chart. The 100,000 square foot inpatient physical medical facility is proposed to replace the 100,000 square feet of non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of residents, commercial space, which includes business and professional offices. Compliance with the Plan of Conservation and Development. The 2016 addendum to the revised 2004 master plan was deemed in compliance with the characteristics of the PND. This 2021 amendment to allow for a change in use on phase 9B to an inpatient physical medical facility does not alter the mixed use premise of a PND, as square footages within the residential and non-residential categories do not change. However, the mix of uses within the category of non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of the residents does change. If approved, the use on phase 9B would convert from commercial office space to a healthcare related use. Zoning compliance. The amendment would provide for a non-residential use that is allowed in the PND zone pursuant to their zoning regulations. All phases of construction in a PND require approval by the EIC as necessary and administrative site plan approval by the department pursuant to the regulations. The EIC application by Encompass Health Connecticut Real Estate LLC was approved with conditions on April 14th, 2021. EIC approval does not sanction the use, only the extent of impact to regulated areas. At the time of a department site plan approval, compliance with the zoning regulations will be required. Criteria for approval. The commissions must determine if the proposed amendment to the master plan to allow an alternate use on phase 9B meets the criteria for approval noted in sections 4H3C of the PND regulations and maintains a site that is compliant with the POCD and the purpose for which it was rezoned. Number one, the proposed development is consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development and the comprehensive planning program on which it is based. The proposed amendment to parcel 9B remains consistent with the City of Danbury Plan of Conservation and Development as previously noted. Number two, environmentally sensitive areas are adequately protected. Approval by the EIC was issued on April 14th, 2021. 3. The proposed development is in substantial harmony with the surrounding area. The The amendment proposes a change in use for the phase. The design of the structure, buffers, and open space will be reviewed when final site plans are submitted. Number 4, existing streets, including proposed street improvements and proposed streets proving access to the site, are adequate to support anticipated traffic volumes at acceptable levels of service. In terms of the adequacy of streets, access to the site, and traffic volumes, the petitioner's traffic assessment indicates that there is no specific trip generation rate for a comparable facility as the one proposed, so hospital and nursing home rates were utilized to compare trip generation rates. Slightly higher peak hour trips could be expected for a similarly sized hospital, while lower rates could be expected if compared to a nursing home, respectively. As roadways in the reserve were designed and permitted by OSTA for a greater amount of non-residential square footage than what is currently planned, and the city maintains discretion to continue to require improvements for specific phased uses, there is not expected to be a deleterious impact to the roadways with the shift in the use in phase 9B as proposed. Number 5, existing and proposed public facilities are adequate to serve the proposed development. The amendment does not include any proposal that would require additional public facilities. Number 6, municipal sewer and water service adequate to serve the proposed P&D can be provided. The regulations require all uses to be served by municipal sewer and water. Improvements to services and connections have been and will be approved as phases are constructed. As indicated above, the mix of non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of residents will change if approved. Based on the revised phase plan, 20,000 square feet of the total 349,300 square feet of non-residential space not serving the immediate needs of the residents appears to be office space, with only 10,000 square feet constructed. There is no structure on phase 10 to date. The remaining uses in this category include a variety of nonprofit and healthcare related uses. Conclusion. To amend the 2016 addendum to the revised 2004 master plan regarding the use on phase 9B, the commissions must determine if said use is consistent with the purpose for which the site was rezoned and master plan approved, and must find that said proposed change in use will not result in deleterious impacts to the site or on the health, welfare, and general safety of the public. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ward Mizuko. I'm a lawyer here in Danbury, and I'm appearing on behalf of Encompass Health Corporation tonight. With me are Eric Lindquist, the project engineer, and Edmund Ball and Patrick Tour from Encompass, who may be able to jump in if I get stuck on a question. So with the permission of the chair, I have a PowerPoint presentation that is probably the most efficient way to show you what's going on here. If I could just share my screen, I will pull that up. Can you see that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Should work for the rest of the commission as well. So let me orient you to the site. I'll try to zoom in on this. Is that better? Can you see that better?
It probably appears on our screen's size, but I can see it fine. Okay.
So just to orient you, of course, we have Interstate 84. We have Old Ridgebury Road. We have Reserve Road. We have the Hotel Zero, Regional Hospice. As you continue in, there are the Toll Brothers condominium complexes to the north. And as you reach the rotary, that would lead you to the entrance of the Summit, the former Matrix building. This yellowish area is the subject property. It's phase 9B. It is a portion of what used to be called development parcel 6. And the other portion of it is owned by a different owner, and it's intended for different purposes. But the subject property is here. And then, as you know, Reserve Road continues out to Sawmill Road and leads down to exit 1 of the highway here. And of course, below that, and just off your screen, is Mill Plain Road. So I hope that orients you to the site. The next slide is a rendering of what the building is likely to look like. So that'll be something that the planning staff gets more into in connection with the site plan application, but I just wanted to give you a preview of that. Speaking of the site plan, as you know, if the zoning commission sees fit to approve this amendment to the master plan, the site plan itself will go on to the planning department for their intensive review in great detail. So I'm going to ask Eric Lindquist, the project engineer, to give you just a summary of how the site plan works, so that you have that information before you. Eric, can you help me out here?
Yep, sure. For the record, my name is Eric Lindquist. I'm Senior Project Manager at Time Bond and a licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. I apologize, this is a little squished. This is more stretched out. I think it just fits a page a little bit here. So this looks a little bit more rectangular than normally would. But the site will be accessed off of Reserve Road. Just wait till we zoom out here a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. There you go.
So the site is accessed off of Reserve Road. We've aligned the entrance off on the north side here. This is oriented so north-south is left-right, north being on the left side. So the site entrance coming in from the north is aligned with the Phase 6, the hills for Toll Brothers. So we maintain that access in the same location. We have a singular access to the site because there is some topography out there to contend with, and we want to make sure that this site is nestled into the hillside so that we're not creating too much cut and too much fill, so that it sits well with the grade. So we come off of that area, and it's pretty much just a big loop around the building. We have a drop off in the northeastern corner, or northwestern corner rather, where patient delivery is, and then there's a series of handicap and accessible spaces around the site on either side of the main entrance. You'll see that to the south, or I'm gonna start messing this up because it's not the right way, but to the west of the site on the bottom of the page, that is the entrance to the former Union Carbide building, the current Summit building. The roundabout you can't see, but it is under the site legend there. So this is like a 90-degree rotation from the aerial plan that Ward was going over a few minutes ago. There'll be retaining walls on the western side and the eastern side. The western side will be a retaining wall because it'll be set down lower than the roadway, so it'll slope up. And then you'll loop around. We'll be at grade in most of the places on the north and south side. And on the east side, there'll be another retaining wall adjacent to the wetlands that will be up in the air, so it'll be a fill slope. So that retaining wall will be also a measure of protection, which we went through with the EIC, so that was a beneficial asset for them. But it's a fairly straightforward site, parking all around to gain access for both employees and for people at the facility. There'll be a courtyard in the middle, pretty straightforward. Loading area will be in the northeastern corner of the site, as well as the areas for utilities and stuff to come into the site. So it's a pretty straightforward building. I'm open to any questions if you have them in addition to this, but that's really all there is to the site layout.
Eric, can I just ask you to cover one other point?
Yeah, sure.
It was well mentioned in the staff report, but of course, we're asking to amend the site plan to change from 100,000 square foot office building to 100,000 square foot rehabilitation hospital or the physical medical facility inpatient. I'm wondering if you could just take a moment to comment on the traffic difference.
Yeah, so I'll make two comments. Number one, I'll talk on traffic, and one as well as on the site disturbance, just to give an idea of when we originally did layouts for Asta back in the day. We had to actually populate the site with a 100,000 square foot building with parking lots and everything else, and the footprint is pretty similar to the two. They're very similar. We tried to maintain the same footprint into the disturbance areas and proximity to the wetlands and all that stuff. So the disturbance envelope for this building is very similar to that 100,000 square foot footprint. There's the shape of the building is a little bit different than the offices, obviously, and the parking is a little bit more in different locations, but the disturbance areas and everything are right on point and they're very similar. In terms of the traffic generation, this facility will have less traffic generation. When we pull together the report, it'll show that when we submit for full site plan approval. But the traffic generation for this site will be less. There's actually less parking as well. There's not as much of a demand. So there'll be a reduction in peak traffic flows for this facility as opposed to an office.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep.
If I may continue then, Mr. Chairman. I provided some background about the project, the property, and so forth, and I'll just hit the highlights of it because this is all in the record and available for the commissioners to view. So the site consists of 13.8 acres. Of course, it's in the PND zone. As we talked about before, it's only a portion of development parcel 6 and therefore separate from the remainder. Berkeley Insurance Corporation owns it. My client, Encompass, has agreed to buy it. And Encompass, as you may know, operates 139 inpatient rehabilitation hospitals across the country. They offer post-acute care to patients that have suffered from acute events such as strokes, heart attacks, and neurological events. They provide physical rehabilitation, occupational therapy, speech therapy to assist patients to become more independent in their integration back into their everyday routine. They receive 24/7 nursing care. They're visited by a rehabilitation physician at least 3 days a week, and they undergo at least 3 hours a day of intense physical rehab. It's important to note also what this isn't. This facility does not offer drug, alcohol, or mental rehabilitation. Patients are transported from an acute hospital, typically like Danbury Hospital, via transport vehicle on a non-emergency basis, so there are no sirens. Patients stay for an average of 13 days, and the facility does not offer any emergency care itself. There's no emergency room. There's no surgery going on. This is a rehabilitation facility. So it's a much less acute level of care than what you would receive in Danbury Hospital, for example. The typical hours, the operating hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. so that for the on-site activities, so that patients have rest for the day's session. So in terms of the local approvals, all of this may sound a little familiar to you because a few months ago, we were before you for a change in your regulations. At that point, the PND regulations allowed for non-residential uses that did not necessarily serve the residents of the neighborhood. But because a physical medical facility was not specifically mentioned, we brought in a petition to, number one, define a physical medical facility, and that definition is what you see here. And here's the part I was emphasizing just a moment ago. No substance abuse or dependency treatment, no psychiatric or mental health treatment, no emergency services, no comprehensive diagnostics, no inpatient medical treatment, surgical treatment, that is, sorry. So the commission saw fit to adopt this definition, and the commission also saw fit to allow this specific use within the PND zone. So that enables us to be here with you this evening, and we appreciate your recognizing the need for this service in your earlier action. In terms of state approvals, we are in the process of obtaining a certificate of need from the State Department of Health. That would be a recognition that the Danbury area needs this facility to round out its offering of medical services. And back to the local level, we have gone to the Wetlands Commission. We're not proposing to do anything in the wetlands. We established to the satisfaction of the EIC that we are only conducting upland review activities in a way that do not that are not likely to impact the wetlands. So on that basis, we were granted EIC approval on April 14 of this year. The proposal is to do all the wetlands infrastructure, drainage, retention, walls, etc., all in one fell swoop, and to start with one building and then to expand it to a larger capacity as the need continues. So to summarize the reasons for in support of our request, I would note that the project is consistent with the plan of conservation and development. It would generate significant tax revenue for the city because the total investment is expected to be $36 million for this facility, including land, building, and equipment. Will generate 70 full-time jobs with an average salary of $75,000 in the first year, increasing to approximately 122 full-time employees with an average salary of $80,000 in the fifth year. And by adopting this definition of an inpatient physical medical facility and specifically allowing it in the P&D zone, the Zoning Commission in effect adopted it for the city's comprehensive plan, which of course is not just the plan of conservation and development, but your overall vision for what's best for the city. We believe the project meets the purposes and intent of the P&D zone and is compatible with other uses. The P&D zone from the outset specifically contemplated non-residential uses and uses that do not necessarily serve the needs of the immediate neighborhood. But of course, with so many people occupying residences nearby in the apartment complexes and the condominium complexes, inevitably some of the residents and their loved ones will take advantage of this facility. The P&D regulations have a reserve density requirement. We've submitted a table which confirms that as proposed, the project would meet all of your density requirements. And the third factor that we have to establish is that the project will not negatively affect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. And indeed, we believe it will promote the health, safety, and welfare of the general public because this inpatient physical medical facility, the first in the Danbury area, will expand options for medical and rehabilitation services. There we go. For Danbury and the surrounding community. The EIC approval provides assurance that the project will not adversely affect the wetland environment. And because the project is expected to generate somewhat less traffic than the office building that had been previously approved in the prior master plan, this makes the road safer and quieter for pedestrians and other drivers. And of course, as noted previously, there are no emergency services. Patients do not come in by ambulance with sirens, so the tranquility of the neighborhood should be preserved. On the basis of that, ladies and gentlemen, I respectfully request the Commission to act favorably on the application. And my team and I would be delighted to respond to any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you, Attorney Mizuko. Any questions for Attorney Mizuko or any members of his presentation team? Commissioner Hylinski.
Mr. Mizuko, you had referred to the fact that you applied to the state and are waiting for to see if they agree that there should be a certificate. You applied for a certificate of need.
Yes, ma'am.
How long is that going to take before you get an answer?
Well, it's a slow process and the pandemic hasn't helped things. The application's been pending for a while. We believe that a public hearing will be held on the proposal later this summer, and we believe a decision would come later in the fall, which
Okay.
would probably coincide with the review time for the site plan. The site plan will probably take a few months to review as well.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any additional questions for Attorney Mizuko? Commissioner Fay?
Is it anticipated that there will be a memory care unit?
Let me call on my team to answer that operational question. Pat or Edmund, would you like to comment?
I can take that. So I'm Patrick Tour. I'm the regional president for the Northeast region of Encompass Health, which spans the Northeast part of the country. And we currently have 19 hospitals in that region. So, you know, in different markets, we do different things depending on the needs of the population in that market. So, you know, we may have spinal cord units, we may have brain injury units, we may have neuro units or stroke specific units. So it really depends on what the need in that community is. So, you know, at this point, it would be hard to say, but that's something that we would continue to evaluate. And I'll say that once we start, what we start with may not be what we continue to operate with. You know, many of our hospitals end up getting 6 or 7 disease-specific certifications from the Joint Commission, which is our national accrediting body. And so it really depends, and we can continue to, whatever we start with is not poured in cement.
I guess what I'm having trouble distinguishing is what's the difference between your facility and a facility like Glen Hill Nursing Home or Bethel Rehab. Like compared with, is yours more like a Gaylord rehabilitation where it takes people of all ages? Or is it more of an aged facility?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And really it comes down to a number of things. So we are an entirely different level of care than a skilled nursing facility. We're licensed as a hospital. We have significantly more resources. Our physicians tend to the patients and visit the patients on a daily basis through a multidisciplinary team. In many markets, we have not just physical medicine and rehab physicians, we have internal med, nephrology, cardiology, infectious disease, pulmonary and critical care. And even if you looked at the direct care hours per patient day, we are almost double what the average skilled nursing facility is running. So it is a significantly higher level of care. And the federal government and every insurance company recognizes those levels of care.
Mm-hmm. So when we, in the presentation where we discussed, I believe Attorney Mizuko said 80 jobs at $75,000 a year, are those nurses or like RNAs, or are they CNAs? Are they?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a mix. So we have physical therapists, physical therapy assistants. We have occupational therapists. We have certified occupational therapy assistants. We have speech language pathologists. We have respiratory therapists. We have RNs, many of whom become certified in rehabilitation nursing care. We do have rehabilitation nursing techs. And in addition to that, we do have non-clinical staff that help support from, financial services to marketing, food services, housekeeping. So it's a wide range of positions, but the majority of our salaries, wages, and benefits is tied to direct clinical care.
And actual physicians work for your facility directly? They don't come in and like do a round once a week or something like that?
Did you say physicians?
Yes.
No, our physicians come every day. And that's one of the key differences between a nursing home and us. Another key difference, if you look at our discharge metrics, 80% of our patients discharge back to the community. That is an entirely different number with a skilled nursing facility. Less than 10% of our patients discharged back to an acute care hospital like Danbury Hospital. So it, again, if you were to look at this on the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, you can see that the differences they're very different levels of care. And in fact, we have claims level data from all Medicare patients across the country. And if you look at potential rehab diagnoses and you look at the patients in markets where they didn't have an inpatient rehab hospital, or even if they did have a rehab hospital and those patients went to a skilled nursing facility, those patients are readmitting tens of % more likely to readmit within 30 days to an acute care hospital than us. And we take a higher acuity patient, and we take those patients on average in my region a full day sooner out of Danbury Hospital to help them with throughput than a skilled nursing facility does. It is completely different.
Thank you. It does sound easy to distinguish from some of the area nursing homes. And I guess that was really my question.
Sure. No, I appreciate the question. And it's very common. There's a lot more nursing homes than there are inpatient rehab facilities. In the state of Connecticut, it's one of the most underbedded for inpatient rehab hospitals in the country. And, we're looking to hopefully change that. And in the markets that we do serve, we're good neighbors, and we participate in community functions, and we embed ourselves in the community. So, I think it would be a nice benefit and level of care for the patients in your markets that don't have this level of care to go to.
Thank you.
Where do most of your patients discharge to? Home, did you say?
Yeah, about 80% discharged to community.
Thank
In
you.
some hospitals, we have, some hospitals, we're over 85%. 80% is our average.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Attorney Mizuko? Attorney Mizuko, I have two quick questions for you. I'm thinking back a couple months to our what just happened here. I think Commissioner Hylinski, I think you might be sharing your screen.
I'm trying to fix it.
Okay. Gotta love the little glitches in technology, right? So Attorney Mizuko, if I remember correctly, when we were anticipating or looking at the changing of the regs, there were two things that were commented. I wanted to just confirm with you. One, that you had some documentations or some letters, I think, and if I remember, even from Danbury Hospital, noting that this was a facility that was greatly needed in the Danbury community. Was that correct?
I don't remember specifically, but we did make that general point because it is an intermediate level of care between Danbury Hospital and what the nursing homes can provide.
And I think also, if I remember correctly, I think we even put this in the motion to approve that that a facility like this would actually release the strain on some of the nursing homes because it is providing a use that we have been seeing has been straining their capacity. Is that correct?
I'm not sure of the extent to which it would accept patients who might otherwise go to a nursing home. Maybe I'd call on Pat again to comment.
Yeah, so
relationship to those needing the rehabilitation services, by the way.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, can you repeat that again?
That was in relationship to those who would need the rehabilitation services who, for lack of a better place to go, are occupying a bed in one of the nursing homes.
That's correct. And your point about Danbury Hospital and other acute care hospitals. So, hospitals across the country have really been hit hard. And one of the ways that we help them is we help them control their length of stay. And that is really important because there comes a point in an acute care stay where they don't get paid anymore, but their costs continue. And the fact that we're able to take those patients a day and a half sooner, if you annualize that, it generates, in many cases, over $1 million in savings a year. So it is substantial. For hospitals that run high occupancy, that are delaying OR procedures, or they have a patient in the ER that needs to be in an inpatient bed but can't. We help with that kind of compression.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just making sure there's no more questions from any commission member. Okay, seeing none. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rotello.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. Also, I represent the 6th Ward where this proposed facility is located. With your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I understand that we're really talking about a legislative issue here, but Tigan Bond did present some site plan. Sorry for my disappearing act. It was light out when this meeting started, trust me. Tigan Bond did testify to some site work, and I understand that regardless of whether this is approved or not, a building is approved for that site, and the 2 buildings would be relatively substantial. But recognizing the sensitivity of the residents in the reserve, my question again with the indulgence of the chair is what could the existing residential residents expect to see when they're driving in and when they're living there? What could they expect to see? What would the visuals of this building look like? Will the angles be softened by plantings and things like that? Is there an intention to buffer it to some extent? Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Rotello. By the way, just for clarification purposes, we are actually sitting and not so much in a legislative capacity, but a site-specific capacity and reserve, because since this does regard the master plan.
Yeah.
And so, Attorney Mizuka, did you want to address that during rebuttal, or did you want to address that now?
Whatever the chair would prefer.
Rob, for the record, I'm in favor of the project, but again, with some sensitivity to the existing residents. And yeah, I understand when we approved the reserve back in the early 2000s, it did include facilities that were non-residential, movie theaters, businesses, and things like that. This is almost part of the original plan for the reserve, if not in specificity, certainly in the general aspect.
So I think
Do you want me to take this one?
I think I can respond in this fashion too. This rendering is designed to showcase the building, not necessarily landscaping. Landscaping is a matter that we would be taking up more with the planning department, and also the condominium complex essentially controls the master association for the reserve, and they have a keen interest, of course, in making sure that this site is aesthetically pleasing for the community, much as my clients want it to be aesthetically pleasing as well. So we are actively working with them as we speak to develop landscaping plans and so forth that would satisfy the other representatives besides Mr. Rotello of the community who serve on the master association. So rest assured that this will be a very attractive site in the end.
Ward, can I add on to that just a little bit, just to give a kind of point of reference for this photo and some of the landscaping and stuff out there?
Thanks, Eric.
So basically the photo Ward has up here right now is the view that will be, this isn't the exact building, but it's pretty close. This is the view, this is the drop off I was referencing on the site plan. I'm going to flip to that in a second, but this view would kind of be where we are at the roundabout. So this is the scale of the building that you'll be seeing there. Some points of reference are the road you're seeing off on the right here. Similarly enough, could be the driveway up to the summit, but that driveway will be up higher and there'll actually be a wall on this right side. So from that side, this building is going to be kind of set down. So you're not going to see this as much as you are right here. This is a little bit more elevated actually than we'll be out there from the roundabout. Or can you go to the site plan now?
Sure.
So like I said, that's from the roundabout, which is the bottom left portion of the screen looking at that corner. As you drive down up Reserve Road towards the entry, you'll start to be more at grade, and then when you get down towards the wetlands in the top of this sheet, then the road starts to slope off there. There'll be a lot of vegetation in this corner we're going to maintain, and we've also, as part of the EIC, we want to beef up there's a storm drainage discharge there. We want to beef that up with landscaping and really kind of make it more bioremediation over there. So there will be some screening off in that corner, and you'll see the wall. You're not going to see the building as much as you will see the face of the Versalock or whatever the wall will end up being, something similar to that, some modular block wall. But there'll also be very thick vegetation through the wetlands as you've driven through there. You can see there's a lot of trees and undergrowth that go through there. So that whole wall and that system will be screened very well from Reserve Road through that entire wetland system. So as you're up on, like I said, on the driveway coming in from the summit, this will be recessed down. You'll be looking at like you'll be up at it, looking at down a little bit at it. Then you'll be at grade around the roundabout and coming through there, but we'll be softening up all those frontages with street trees and everything else to really soften this into the grasses and everything else. So it really makes this building blend into the environment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Lynn.
you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Ms. Calitro, I'm just confirming that we don't see anybody else wishing to raise their hands or acknowledging.
I don't see anyone, no.
Okay.
Everybody's on the same screen.
Yep. Fortunately for us this evening, it's a little bit easier.
Right.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Again, Ms. Calitro, I'm just confirming that there's no opposition acknowledging themselves, identifying themselves.
Not that I can see, no. Everybody else is muted. I don't see any hands being waved. No,
Thank you. Ms. Calitro, do you have any additional staff comments that you wanted to offer?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Attorney Mizuko, did you have any rebuttal that you wished to offer in response to the opposition that was not presented?
Yes, I do. Seriously, thank you very much for your time this evening. I just would wrap up by saying that this brings a lot of jobs and tax dollars to the community. It brings a much needed range of medical services. It's a very unobtrusive use. I think it will be a real credit to the neighborhood. I'm grateful for all the support we received from the planning department, and I would very much appreciate the commission's favorable action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Mizuko. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to either close or to continue the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Commissioner Fay, seconded by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Almeida. Discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Mizuko, we have 6 members present this evening, so 6 members currently would be eligible. As you know, this needs a simple majority of 5. However, we do have a membership of 9, so there are 3 members who we could try to get qualified. Would you prefer for us to try to take action this evening, try to get others qualified, or do you have a preference?
Thank you for that point, Mr. Chairman. Honestly, we are really eager to get on with the site plan review process if the commission sees fit to act as early as this evening. So we'd be pleased to go forward with the commissioners who are qualified. And thank you very much again.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Mizuko. With that, does anybody want to move this to item number 1 under old business for discussion and possible action? Ms. Hylinski, seconded by Commissioner Almeida. Discussion. All those in favor of moving this to item number 1 under old business for discussion and possible action, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. At this time, let the record reflect that I will return the gavel to Chairman Haddad.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Malillo. The second petition this evening is a petition of Newtown Road LLC, Maria and Manuel Andre, Whitney Avenue, K12254, for change of zone from RA8 to CG20. This was a March submission. Let me begin by reading the Planning Commission recommendation. Dated May 13, 2021 to Theodore J. Haddad Jr., Chairman, Danbury Zoning Commission, from Arnold E. Finaldi Jr., Chairman, Danbury Planning Commission. Excuse me. Regarding 83A Referral petition of Newtown Road LLC, Maria Emanuel Andre, Whitney Avenue, K12254, for change of zone from RA8 to CG20. This was a March submission. At the web-based Zoom meeting held on May 5th, 2021, the City of Danbury Planning Commission voted to give the above referenced petition a negative recommendation for the following reasons. Number one, this proposal is inconsistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD, Land Development Plan, which designates this parcel as single-family residential. Number two, approval of this petition would result in further encroachment of commercial land and uses into this older residential neighborhood. Number three, rezoning this parcel is the wrong decision for this specific property, as it is not in the best interest of the city and will have a detrimental effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the area. And number four, there have not been any significant land use changes in this area since 1988, so there is no reason to change the previous denial of this request. The motion to give this a negative recommendation was made by Mr. Uris. It was seconded by Mr. Chioccio and passed unanimously by roll call vote with ayes from Mr. Chioccio, Mrs. Hofstetter, Mr. Selvane, Mr. Uris, and Chairman Finaldi. Ms. Calicio, can you read the staff report, please?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
This is to the City of Danbury Planning Commission, City of Danbury Zoning Commission, from Sharon B. Calitro, ASCP, Director of Planning, dated April 29, 2021, regarding the petition to amend the zoning map by Newtown Road LLC, Whitney Avenue, Tax Assessor Lot Number K12254. We've received a petition from Newtown Road LLC to amend the official zoning map for Tax Assessor Lot K12254, located on Whitney Avenue, from the RA8 zone to the CG20 zone. The tax assessor records indicate the property owners are Manuel and Maria Andre, with an address of 207 Sterling Road in Trumbull. The property is 8,330 square feet in size. The RA8 is a single-family zoning district requiring a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet. Per the zoning map, the property is adjacent to lots in the CG20 zone to the east and south. The zone of the property immediately adjacent to the east is discussed below, and RA8 zone property to the west and across Whitney Avenue to the north. The area proposed to be rezoned totals 9,332 square feet. The additional square footage above the lot size, or 1,002 square feet, accounts for the area within the right-of-way, so that the zoning district boundary would be relocated to the middle of the street in accordance with Section 3B3 of the zoning regulations. That section notes that when opposite sides of a street lie in different districts, the boundary shall be deemed to be the center of the right-of-way. The petition gives the following reason as to why the petition should be granted. Quote, the subject parcel is located in the RA8 zone, but is part of a large parcel in the CG20 zone. The CG20 portion is 20,000 square feet in lot area, and the RA8 zone intrudes into the CG20 zone in a manner that makes it almost impossible to develop a site plan without crossing over the zoning line and rendering the property in both zones almost useless. Zone line would follow property lines and create regularly shaped parcels that can be improved as contemplated by the Plan of Conservation and Development, close quote. Comments. Interestingly, the parcel was the subject of a similar rezoning request in 1988, along with 3 other adjacent parcels, 2 of which fronted on Newtown Road. At that time, it was requested that all 4 parcels be rezoned from RA8 to CG20. As to the subject parcel and the adjacent parcel at 2 Whitney Avenue, Tax Assessor Lot K12257, the rezoning request was denied. The 2 parcels fronting on Newtown Road were approved to be rezoned to CG20. Even though the rezoning request for the subject parcel and the adjacent parcel on Whitney Avenue were denied, the zoning map designation for the property at 2 Whitney Avenue was changed to CG20, while the subject parcel, per the commission action, remained designated RA8. Based on research and review of the old file, staff believes it changed to the designation for 2 Whitney Avenue was an unintentional drafting error, and the zone boundary should be as indicated below in blue. There currently exists a single-family dwelling on the 2 Whitney Avenue property. The property to the west of the subject parcel contains a single-family dwelling, as do the lots across the street on Whitney Avenue. The motion of the Zoning Commission 1988 followed the recommendations in the staff report. That motion was that, quote, the 2 properties at 4244 fronting on Newtown Road to have zone change from RA8 to CG20 since it is in a commercial area, close quote. And quote, the two properties fronting on Whitney Avenue shall be maintained at zone RA8 since it is a residential area and should be maintained as one, close quote. In addition to concerns about the commercial encroachment into the neighborhood on Whitney Avenue, the 1988 staff report noted as to the subject parcel and to Whitney Avenue, quote, Whitney Avenue is not a principal roadway and not suitable for business purposes, close quote. Staff reminds the commissions that should the subject parcel be rezoned as requested, any use allowed in the CG20 zone could potentially be located on this parcel. The lots on Whitney Avenue from the adjacent to Whitney Avenue parcel and then in the opposite direction to the west and across the street to the north have remained in residential use. Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD. The POCD Land Development Plan map designates the subject parcel as single family. Therefore, rezoning to CG20 is inconsistent with the plan map. The petitioner's statement relative to creating a regularly shaped parcel to be used for a use contemplated in the POCD is questionable. The shape of what the subject site would look like, presumably combined with the other lands of the petitioner per the deed, is not regular at all. Adding this parcel to the CG20 zone would, however, provide additional land area to help in the design of a commercial development on a larger site. The subject site at 8,330 square feet is also large enough to accommodate a single-family dwelling, although a specific site plan for a residential development has not been undertaken. Rezoning this parcel is inconsistent with several recommendations in the Land Development Plan section, but at the same time consistent with others on page 14. As noted above, it would provide additional land that would help in the design of a commercial site, but at the same time would result in a further intrusion of commercial uses into the established residential neighborhood. Zoning Regulations, Section 10I3, Zone Change Criteria. Per Section 10I3 is the zoning regulations. There are both general and specific zone change criteria to be considered when contemplating a zone change. As noted in this section, the location, extent, and configuration of the various zoning districts within the city of Danbury are intended to further the objectives of zoning as set forth in Section 8-2 of the General Statutes of Connecticut, which objectives include but are not limited to protecting the public health and general welfare, providing convenience, protecting property values, limiting congestion in the streets, and providing safety from fire, panic, flood, and other dangers. Zones should be located with reasonable consideration given to 1, the suitability of the site for particular uses allowed in the proposed zone, 2, compatibility of uses allowed within the proposed zone with the surrounding area, 3, the present and future needs of the city for additional lands to be rezoned as proposed, and 4, the impact which may be caused by reducing the amount of land in the city zone for certain uses as a result of the change to a new zoning district. Zoning district changes should be determined with a view toward encouraging the most appropriate use of land throughout the city. While the subject parcel is adjacent on some borders to other lands of CG20 and may make the development project more feasible on a combined larger parcel with such CG20 zone land, the property does front on Whitney Avenue, and as noted in the 1988 staff report, the location of any business on Whitney Avenue could serve to adversely affect the general nature of the neighborhood. If rezoned, any of the general commercial uses, whether permitted or special exception, would, to the extent a design could be accommodated on a combined parcel, be allowed on the land. While the zones may be considered compatible since they are adjacent, the commissions could reasonably question whether further encroachment is necessary or desired. Except for the parcels fronting on Newtown Road, the surrounding properties are residentially zoned and in residential use. General criteria 3 and 4 are inconsequential as this property is relatively small. Specific criteria for highway commercial districts include A, consideration given to the ability to buffer the commercial development from adjacent residential areas and to avoid the necessity of routing vehicular traffic to the site through neighborhoods. B, location of sites that should be adjacent to collector or arterial streets with consideration given to the impact such development on traffic safety and congestion on abutting and nearby roads and the feasibility of undertaking improvements as may be necessary to limit such impacts to acceptable levels. C, limiting sites in this district to those which are or will be served by public sewer and water service and where adequate capacity will be available for the uses allowed in the proposed zone. D, avoiding development on slopes in excess of 15%, and E, avoiding sites that contain a preponderance of wetlands and sites which lie within public water supply watersheds. Since specific criteria C, D, and E are not applicable in the subject case, case, the commissions may wish to focus on whether the zone change for this parcel meets the criteria in A and B. Conclusions. The commission may reasonably question whether any significant land use changes have occurred since 1988 in this area to alter the earlier zoning commission decision to deny the request to designate this parcel as appropriate for the CG20 zone. While adding this lot to the CG20 zone would provide flexibility for the design on all of the CG20 lots, it would also result in a further encroachment of commercial land and uses into a residential neighborhood. The Planning Commission shall include in its report to the Zoning Commission a statement of findings on the consistency of the proposed zone change with the plan of conservation, with the plan of development, and the reasons for its findings. To approve the petition and amend the official zoning map, the Zoning Commission must find that it has considered the POCD as required by state statutes, and that the rezoning meets the zone change criteria requirements of the zoning regulations. Rezoning should result in the use of land that is in the best interest of the city and will not detrimentally impact the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. Since the subject site could be developed for a use that is allowed in the RA8 zone, and a commercial development, albeit smaller, could be established in the on the CG20 parcels fronting on Newtown Road, staff supports the previous recommendation from the department to maintain this parcel in the RA8 zone. Further encroachment of commercial development and its resultant impacts into the established single-family residential neighborhood should be avoided.
Thank you. Let me go to a couple housekeeping items. Ms. Calitro, I think we lost Joanne, so look for her in case she wants to come back on. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Jowdy was here prior to me reading in the second petition, and to make him, Joanne Reed is now back on, and to make Mr. Jowdy qualified, Mr. Jowdy, please note that the legal notice for the petition of Newtown Road LLC, Maria Manuel Andrade, Whitney Avenue, K12254 for change of zone from RA8 to CG20, March submission, was posted on the city website and sent to the town clerk on May 10th, 2021. Mr. Jowdy is now fully qualified to sit in and vote. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Neil Marcus, Cone Wolf PC, 158 Deer Hill Avenue in Danbury. We have filed this application on behalf of Newtown Road for reasons that are a little bit strange to me, actually. The applicant has been before the Danbury Planning Commission seeking a site plan special exception to build a daycare center on the site, which is the parcel in the CG20 zone and the RA8 zone. And we were sailing along through that application with very little opposition and a great deal of support, even from the public, people who thought this was a good use. For those of you who are not terribly familiar with the site that we're talking about, it's been used for many years as Manny's Auto Parts, the old steel, metal building that's still on the site, was used for many years, as I say, by the auto parts. And then next door to it, there was an old house that has been used for a combination of various offices. And the site includes, as the staff report says, a small parcel in the RA8 zone. However, the use of the property for a child care center is unique in the Danbury zoning regulations in that it's a use that's allowed in both zones. You can build a child care center in the RA8 zone and in the CG20 zone. And knowing that, the applicant has spent a lot of money designing and planning a really kind of modern, very attractive building, which would have the usual attributes to the city. A, it would increase the value of the property for the tax roll. B, it will employ people both in construction of the facility and in the operation of the daycare center. So it's got some really positive sides to it. in spite of the fact when you read the staff report and the recommendation from planning, you tend to think that this is really a negative application. It's got a lot of issues that have raised negative comment. However, we're sailing along through the planning commission when it's brought out, or somebody raises the point that even though the use as a child care center is allowed in the CG20 zone and in the RA8 zone, since our site plan incorporated both zones, we had different size requirements. If we could build a daycare center solely on the CG20 zone, we would need a lot of 20,000 square feet. But if you were to build a daycare center in an RA8 zone, you need an acre, 1 acre in the RA8 zone. So of course, because this property has a zone line dividing it, even though the use is allowed in both zones, the city has determined that this property needs 1.5 acres. We need a 1/2 acre in the CG20 and an additional 1 acre in the RA8. There went a very fine building plan down the drain. Can't do it. So besides the fact that sort of a bizarre ruling that because this site is in 2 zones, you have to combine the minimum acreage, it just can't be done. So at that point, the only suggestion was you should change the RA8 portion to become part of the CG20, and then you'll be all set. And that's why we're here, actually, because we thought that that was a good suggestion. Not only did we think it was a good suggestion, it makes sense from a zoning perspective. Good zoning says that you don't divide properties into 2 zones if you can avoid it. And clearly, where the larger portion of a property is in 1 zone, you would change the smaller portion to be the same as the larger and not vice versa. You would never say, take the larger portion, CG20, and let's make that RA8, even though it fronts on Newtown Road. So the circumstances that bring us here are bizarre, quite honestly. But on the other hand, if we cannot use the RA8 portion, then we have what I've described, if you look at the zoning map that we've submitted, a very odd shaped parcel. And it's not only odd shaped, but because our zoning regulations require a 20-foot densely buffered area anywhere where the CG20 property touches the RA8, it makes the property virtually unusable. It's too narrow. You've got a setback from Newtown Road, and then you've got a setback, an additional setback from the property in the rear, which is RA8. So at this point, quite honestly, if we don't change the zone, you might as well say that Manny's Auto Parts will exist on this site as an empty building forever, because that pre-existing non-conforming building is the only thing you can have. Now, I know the staff report talks about other uses, but in reality, there are not many uses because the building would have to be so small in the CG20 zone that you can't find many people. As it is, we're talking about a 10,000 square foot building, not exactly a huge building. However, if you go up and down Newtown Road and try to envision who would build maybe a 5,000 square foot building or even a 3,500 square foot building, depending on how much parking you'd need, that's what you'd be talking about on the site. And quite honestly, it's not going to happen. And it hasn't happened up to this point. Interestingly, a number of years ago, a client of mine looked at the Manny's Auto Parts building to buy it, the same site. And I told them that they would be out of their minds. You can't really build anything new on there. The site's too restrictive. They did their own analysis and came to the same conclusion. And that was the Indian Motorcycle group that are now up on Federal Road in Brookfield. So imagine trying to put the Indian Motorcycle showroom and facility on this site when you've got all these restrictions, and a good portion of the site can't be used for that use at all because that's commercial use. But here, where we can use a good portion of the site for our daycare center, we fall into the glitch. Well, you can't because that portion would have to be a whole acre. So the long and the short of it is that this property, irrespective of the Planning Commission and staff report that suggests there are lots of other uses we could consider, doesn't understand the development of the property itself in the location that we're talking about. So that's why we're here. Quite honestly, we would have been happy to just build our original building, leave it in the RA8 zone, and agree that the RA8 zone allows the portion of our daycare center as a use as of right. But since we can't do that, we are now obligated, after having spent quite a few $100,000 in design of this building and the site and the application, to either get this property rezoned or abandon it completely. So that is the history of this. And the next question is, does it make sense to do this? And the answer is yes, because the predominant influence on the RA parcel, this small 8,000 square foot parcel, is really influenced by the commercial zone, i.e. the portion of the property that is Manny's Auto Parts and the portion of the property that has been an office building adjacent to it. So that dominates the site. Granted, it's all about drawing a line, but the beauty is that the Planning Commission can buffer the property if the zone is changed because the regulations already require it. So looking at the report from the Planning Commission, there are reasons for denial. I'm going to look at it real quickly. It says, one, it's inconsistent with the planned conservation development, which designates this parcel as single-family residential. Well, yeah, that's why we're here for a zone change. It didn't say forever. It said, 10 years ago, when the plan of conservation development was drawn, that this property was residential. Yes, I don't think they examined why it was residential. There's nothing that indicates that anybody really studied the site, but now we are looking at it. But the approval of this petition would result in further encroachments of commercial land and uses into this older residential neighborhood. Well, actually, it wouldn't. In reality, the neighborhood, the site itself, as I say, is virtually in the middle of a commercial zone to begin with. So the question is, where do you draw the line? And as I say, where the Planning Commission wants you to draw the line doesn't make any sense, because the building lot residential is too overwhelmed by the commercial portion of the property right now. You wouldn't put a house there. You jut into a commercial zone. So number two really doesn't make sense. I'm not sure, again, rezoning this parcel is the wrong decision for this specific property, is it's not in the best interest of the city. Well, that's a great phrase, but I'm not sure what's not in the best interest of the city. I think it's in the best interest of the city to get rid of Manny's Auto Parts, quite honestly. That building has never impressed me as either an architectural gem or a great use of property, but it just sits empty. So the best interest of the city of Danbury, I think, is to get a reasonably well-developed site that'll throw off some tax revenue. And then it says it's going to have a detrimental effect on health, safety, and welfare. Now, I got to tell you, I'm trying to figure out what the detrimental effect is. Now, there will be issues of traffic, so that the Planning Commission, in approving any use of this property, would have to be concerned with how traffic impacts Whitney Avenue. The traffic from a commercial site would not allowed to have left turns onto Whitney. That's an issue. But to say that that's detrimental to the health and safety and welfare is just a step way too far. I mean, you're talking about 8,000 square feet of property. I mean, it's almost melodramatic to say that. But then it says that there have not been any significant land use changes in this area since 1988. That's 33 years ago. So there's no reason to change the previous denial. Well, yeah, I don't know what city the Planning Commission looks at and what city I grew up in and practice law in, but this neighborhood has changed significantly in 33 years. There's been a lot of development, and the major thing is there have been roadway improvements going on as we speak that have changed the character of the neighborhood. So I'm not sure what neighborhood the Planning Commission is looking at, but the neighborhood that I know, I mean, you know, I look in the mirror and then I look at the pictures of myself 33 years ago and I say, I haven't changed at all. But the fact of the matter is, it's just not true. So the issue here is, I'm not sure whether the Planning Commission has gone out and really had a hard look at the site. Now, as I say, I am wary of the traffic issues that have been raised by the neighbors along Whitney Avenue, and those need to be properly addressed. But keeping this as an RA8 property, it doesn't really, it's like overkill. It's like saying, well, so therefore this whole corner really can't be redeveloped because we're worried that you can't make traffic take a right turn or not use Whitney Avenue at all because there's a lot of frontage on Newtown Turnpike if this parcel is brought into the CG20 zone. So that's an issue that I really don't think is too worrisome. On the staff report itself, again, on page 2, we talk about the coincidence that this had been the subject of a 1988 rezoning request, and that the staff believes that that not much has changed. That in fact, again, like the Planning Commission, that 33 years doesn't warrant any change. The fact of the matter is that there have been a lot of changes, but the rezoning, the suggestion is that the rezoning is inconsistent with the land development plan section of the Plan of Conservation Development. Really, as I say, is short-sighted because, again, that would be based on the fact that nothing has changed. The question is, do we meet the criteria for a rezoning? And of course, at the top of page 4 of the staff report, the criteria are correctly listed. And one is A, consideration has to be given to the ability to buffer commercial development from adjacent residential areas and to avoid the necessity of routing vehicular traffic to the site through the neighborhoods. Well, the answer is, quite honestly, the Planning Commission already has a plan that shows how that would be accomplished for this particular site. And if it can be accomplished for our use, it can be accomplished for any other use of the property because you have significant frontage on Newtown Road. So clearly, you could design this with just potentially emergency vehicles coming in from Whitney or nobody coming in at all. So the fact that that's a consideration, I think this commission, the zoning commission, can find that that's not a reason to deny the application. And then B is location of sites that should be adjacent to collector or arterial streets and highway with consideration given to the impact of such development on traffic safety, congestion, et cetera. Well, I got to tell you, if this site isn't adjacent to Newtown Road, I don't know what site is, quite honestly. This site, if it is incorporated within the CG20 zone, is in fact a Newtown Road property. And any use of the property, our use in particular, would be low traffic impacts because it's a daycare center. But even if you were to put a store or another higher volume user on the site. No retailer wants to enter the site from Whitney Avenue. The traffic is on Newtown Road. That's how you get into the site, and that's the traffic you want to serve. So B doesn't raise an issue that would suggest the property should not be rezoned. C and D just don't apply at all. I agree with the staff report that those criteria don't apply to this site. So again, in the conclusion, the commission may reasonably question whether any significant land use changes have occurred. And I will tell you, go out there tomorrow and look at what they're doing to the roads and look what they've already accomplished on Newtown Road and look at the development, down the street, the almost adjacent to this property is the Italian restaurant that just closed up. Well, that was significantly renovated, modernized, changed, and now it's going to happen again. Apparently, the paper announces that it's going to be an IHOP. But those are changes. Those are changes to the neighborhood, and to suggest that nothing changes is just not correct. So the conclusion that I really can't agree with is that the subject parcel could be developed for a use that's allowed in the RA8 zone. I think it's a lousy site for a new house because it's too close to Newtown Road. You're just too close to the commercial use, and you're going to build a new house on the RA8 property. You got to worry what will become of Manny's Auto Parts, if anything, or do I just get to look at that building out the backyard forever? So the long and the short of it is, I think if you look at it from what you would do with this property if it had to remain in the RA8 zone, you wouldn't find it an attractive option. And then, of course, as I've already said, if you leave the oddly shaped CG20 zone, by the time you do your setbacks, your buffers, the site's really doomed. It really just doesn't work. Whereas when we started this process, we were sailing along swimmingly on a project that looked like it was going to be a home run for everybody. And then we got the roadblock of an interpretation, the fact that we would need 1.5 acres of land for our 10,000 square foot building, and we don't have it. It's not available. But what is available is to bring this RA8 piece into the CG20 piece so that the site can go forward. And I know that in any zoning amendment, that it's not being done for a daycare center. That happens to be our use. But even if you were to put another commercial use on this property, you have all of the protections that are required that would shield the neighboring residential zone, A, by the buffer, a dense 20-foot planted buffer, and B, by limiting traffic on Whitney Avenue, because you really don't need it. You can service this site perfectly well from Newtown Road. So that's it. I mean, as I say, I'm here. This is the court of last resort. Once this, if this goes down, the whole project goes down, and it's, I hate to say it, Manny's Auto Parts for the foreseeable future. And that's why we're here. And as I say, I was somewhat surprised by the fact that the staff report was a bit negative, and that the planning commission just says it's nothing changes over there. It's residential, leave it. So I'm going to encourage you, I'll answer any questions you might have, but I'm going to encourage you to take a hard look at the site and then come to the conclusion that I've come to, that there really is no choice. Either you leave it and abandon it, or you agree that circumstances have changed significantly enough to rezone 8,000 square feet. That's all we're asking for. And as I say, I do believe that the planning commission can adequately protect the neighbors from any traffic incursion, because from our perspective, we were already aware of it, and that was taken into consideration in our limited traffic impact use. So I thank you for listening to why we're here, and I'm hoping you can get us out of the mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, any questions of Attorney Marcus at this time? Commission members, any questions of Attorney Marcus? Not seeing any at this time. I'm going to ask, I'm sorry, Mr. Melillo. How did I not see that? Sorry.
I was trying to unmute too.
I have never appeared before this commission without a question from Mr. Melillo.
Yes, I can't let you go without a question, Attorney Marcus.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, let me preface this by saying it's ironic that you're talking about this parcel of land, because this parcel of land does connect, or a section of this parcel, well, actually not this parcel of land, but this area does connect to my time on the zoning commission from when I was first elected many moons ago. But not as many moons ago as Commissioner Haddad. Let me just put that out there for the record. We used to go to, at the time it was New Sorrento. Prior to New Sorrento, it was Old Sorrento. After meetings, Chairman Knapp and Commissioner Johnston, Commissioner Farah, and a bunch of us used to go out there. After some of those later night zoning commission meetings, which don't last as long anymore. So I am kind of familiar with this, and I'm curious because I'm sitting here and I read Ms. Calitro's report. I read the Planning Commission recommendation and their statement that there really hasn't been that much change in this neighborhood, in this area, in the past 33 years. And I thought, okay, I read it and I accepted that. And now I'm sitting here and you're saying, well, that's not true. There has been change. So I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think, they tore down the Sorrento building because it was cheaper to tear it down than make the renovations needed. And then they built a new one. But outside of that new building, I can't think of anything else that's been new in this vicinity. I mean, everything else newer is down by Denny's. Even the Public Works building, they're changing the entry to the Public Works, but they're not significantly changing the Public Works building. So I'm curious what it is that you're saying is new in this vicinity in the past 33 years.
Well, the Old Sorrento is one that came right to my mind. That's brand new, and it's going to change again. But what's new really is the fact that the road itself has been upgraded, and the state's working on it. And of course, it's not right in front of here, but it's just down the street. And that the fact that changes the, you don't do those types of highway improvements for neighborhoods that you're trying to retain a residential character of. So, I mean, you just don't do it. I mean, you do that to serve commercial uses. I mean, obviously, I remember when Dent Electric moved off of Elm Street to the site that's basically almost across the street from the proposed parcels that were rezoning. But that was more than 33 years ago. But this section here has gradually improved, and particularly, Bob, it's really the road that has changed the character of the neighborhood. As I say, that's really the major current change, other than the Old Sorrento.
See, I would differ on the Sorrento because the way I look at it, it's really been the same use. It was a restaurant. So I would and that's the reason why I'm not thinking it's changed, because it's been the same. The building may have changed, but the use has remained the same. So from a land use facility, in my mind, naturally goes in that direction. So thank you, Attorney Marcus.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, any other questions of Attorney Marcus at this time? Any other questions? Let me also then move on to anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? I don't see any hands. I don't hear any noises. Same thing with you, Ms. Reed. Don't see anybody. I'm now going to move to anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, but first I'm going to call on Ms. Calitro. I believe she has 3 emails at least. If you would,
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Calitro.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read them. Dear zoning commissioners, I'm writing in regards to lot K12254 on Whitney Avenue. This parcel was denied a zone change in 1988 and remained in the RA8 zone. Every house on Whitney Avenue and adjoining Broad Street is zoned RA8. Width of Whitney Avenue is actually narrower than a normal residential street. To use a residential road for commercial purposes would be a disaster. The Planning Commission gave a unanimous negative decision on the zone change. I hope you deny the zone change to keep the residential neighborhood as is. Thank you, David H.K. 7 Whitney Avenue. And this is to the zoning commission. I, Virginia A. Benton at 4 Whitney Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut, 06810, am opposed to the petition to change the zone R8 zone to CG20 zone for the lot K12254. Changing the CG20 zone changing the CG20 will create more traffic to Whitney. We are apt to have traffic trying to make shortcuts from Route 6 connecting with Old Newtown Road to avoid bottlenecks that now occur. Allowing for left turns will be dangerous to oncoming traffic as well as dangerous conditions for the young children who live on Whitney and Broad Street. Please reconsider these factors from our neighborhood. Very true. Yours, Virginia A. Benton, 4 Whitney Avenue. And then a second one, I, Virginia A. Benton of 4 Whitney Avenue, Connecticut, am not in favor of the proposed zone change from RA to CG20 for lot K12254. Your proposed change of zone is detrimental to our street. CG20 zone would allow vehicles to make a left turn onto Whitney Avenue, allow vehicles to shortcut from Newtown Road and connect with Old Beaverbrook Road and Commerce Park. This would be very dangerous to oncoming traffic as well as young children who live on Whitney Avenue and Broad Street. Please do not change RA8 to CG20. Very truly yours, Virginia A. Benton, 4 Whitney Avenue. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? I see Mr. Esposito's hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Good evening, commissioners. My name is John Esposito, 44 Fairfield Avenue. I'm also the city councilman representing the 4th ward, of which this zone change request resides within the ward. I am opposing this zone change from RA to CG20. I believe the change would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods due to related through traffic and also parking, when it comes to picking up children from the daycare facility. Additionally, I've been contacted by several of my constituents, many of which are not user-friendly with the Zoom meeting. So they asked me to speak on their behalf here this evening, of which I'm doing. They also oppose the zone change. And as you heard, the Planning Commission did give a negative recommendation on the zoning change. So with all that said, and for those reasons, I hope that tonight the Zoning Commission will give a unanimous no vote on the request. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Esposito. Commission members, are there any questions of Mr. Esposito at this time? I should say Councilman Esposito. Commission members, anything of Councilman Esposito? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? I see Lamia Agora. Did
Councilman
I correct?
Santos, too.
Yes, please, Ms. Agora. We don't hear you. Did you hit your on? Did you unmute? No, we can't hear you.
Mr. Haddad, perhaps Mr. Gurr might want to try exiting and re-entering, see if that fixes her microphone.
Ms. Agora, why don't you try to exit? We'll look for you to come back in, reboot, I guess, whatever. I'm going to go on to other opposition, but we're going to wait for you. Okay? Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Farley Santos, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. Farley Santos, resident of 27 Westview Drive, Good Arms, stone throw away from this parcel of land, K12254, that we are discussing here. I've met with many of the neighbors in the Whitney Avenue, Broad Street area, spoken to many of them over the phone, and discussed what the decision was here, and have come to the conclusion along with them that for the sake of the residential neighborhood in which this parcel of land is part of, it would not be wise to change it from RA8 to CG20. There is significant traffic that goes through Whitney Avenue at the moment. We talk about changes over the last 33 years. Changes down Newtown Road have affected this quaint neighborhood of homes and residents. And it does provide a cut through from the Beaverbrook Road area through Broad Street and through Whitney Avenue. And the concern is the traffic pickup that will continue to encroach on this residential quaint neighborhood. And so for those reasons and other reasons, including the Planning Commission's recommendation, negative recommendation, the past, the history of this parcel of land and what has decisions that have been made in the past, along with the staff report, which I thought was very telling. I don't think that the zoning commission would be right in approving this. I do agree with Attorney Marcus that we would like to see a good business develop in the Manny's Auto Body, the former Manny Auto Body parcel of land there. It is an eyesore for the area. I am a proponent of good business growth, but good business growth that creates jobs and also maintains the quality of life in the neighborhoods in which they are going to be moving into. In this case, it does seem that barring any changes, the daycare facility would be a great idea, but changing that specific parcel of land would be very detrimental to the residents of this area. And therefore, I'm speaking as a voice for them, my constituents, and would like to express my desire for you guys to give this a no vote tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and thank you to the other commissioners.
Thank you, Councilman Santos. Commission members, is there any questions of Councilman Santos at this time? Any questions? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Yes, Sue and Amber St. Hilaire, I think.
Sue, Amber, does Sue and Amber want to speak?
Yes, we would love to.
Yes, please, go ahead.
We are Sue and Amber. We live on 1 Whitney Avenue. We agree with everyone who has opposed so far for the same reasons. There are children who walk and play in the street. They will definitely be harmed. The traffic right now with the Newtown Road and Old Newtown Road construction is awful. The cars race down here. It's terrible. They drive way too fast. For change purposes, we tried to get our right to Planeta Brazil rezoned when we wanted to sell in 2010. And because it was part of the residential area of Whitney Avenue, we were told, no, it needs to stay residential. And we agree with that. Yeah. So I think the spot between the Sec 2 Whitney Avenue and 4 would be just a havoc to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
houses there too, and well, the lot 2, 2 Whitney Avenue, and then Mrs. Benson's house. They're both elderly. And to have all that traffic and all those cars coming in between their 2 houses, it would be awful. Besides the traffic on the road.
Thank you. So let me get this straight. Sue and Amber, you're at 1 Whitney Avenue?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And the second person that spoke, you're at the same address, or did you say you were at 2? No, you're.
No, I'm at 1 also. Lemia, who couldn't get her microphone to work, is 2. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So did you say that you're on the corner?
Yeah, we're the blue house on the corner. Planeta Brazil from Newtown Road is our side street here, which that's another problem for another day.
And forgive me for not remembering, but did you say that you came in for a zone change at one point?
You're cutting in and out.
I'm sorry?
You're cutting in and out. We didn't hear you. Sorry, try again.
Did you say at one time you came in for a zone change on your property at 1 Whitney?
Yes.
And you wanted to change from residential to commercial and it was denied?
Yes. We hoped it would help with the sale because it was so close to Planeta Brazil, but it was denied due to residential neighborhood.
Okay.
It wasn't Planeta Brazil then, though. It was a different bar. BRT wanted it for parking area.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Commission members, any questions of Sue and Amber at this time? I don't see anyone else. Thank you, Sue and Amber. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Oh, she's back.
I see, Mr. Chinese, I'll get to you in a second.
Yep, let her speak, yes.
Okay. Lamia Agora, please speak in opposition.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lamia Agora, and I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, who's lived here for 44 years. She's almost 83 years old, and I grew up in this neighborhood, and it was a very quiet road for a very, very long time. Lately, it's gotten very busy. I have a wonderful picture. If you guys can look at the date today. This was taken this afternoon. I don't know if you guys can see how much congestion. Okay, and Whitney is a residential area. What we're creating here is a perfect storm. And we have signs on the corner of Newtown and Whitney. We have signs on the bottom of the hill on Broad and Old Newtown Road. And people don't adhere to, I mean, they come through this road flying. The cars are using Whitney Avenue as a cut through, as well as some trucks too. With excessive speeds, it is more like an expressway. And a great deal of congestion at certain times, as you saw in the picture. I think there were 5 cars on Whitney Avenue. It's a small road. My neighbor's kids were almost hit a couple of times by cars flying through. One of them is 9, one of them is 8, and the other one is 6. And I've watched this more than once. I've had to do this to people flying up the hill or down the hill, like slow down, you're gonna kill somebody. My mother has problems going across the street to get her mail. She's almost been hit once or twice. We have Planet Brazil in the corner of, it's on Newtown Road, but it's very close to Whitney Avenue. In fact, right now I'm hearing the music. This is how loud it is. They don't adhere to any laws. They block on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They basically control our road by using it as a parking lot. They go up and down the road, parking all over the place. And they don't leave until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. There's quite a lot of noise. They don't adhere to the noise ordinance laws, and they're very disregard and disrespect the rules of the neighborhood. I understand they are on Newtown Road. However, they're also affecting us by parking on this small street. I don't understand why the daycare can't exit through Newtown Road, since they own 3 properties facing Newtown Road. the old Hample House, they condemned it and took it out. There's also the insurance building, the Progressive building, and Manny's auto shop. If they allow this property that's next door to my mother to become commercial, it's going to create more of a congestion as far as the traffic is concerned. People are flying, and there should be cops placed here and to let people know, to give tickets out, because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to live in this street. People can't. Sometimes I can't back out of my mom's driveway. I think residents want City Hall to protect them and their children. Whitney Avenue is a dangerous road to live on. In summation, we have the Brazilian bar, restaurant, thank you, Mom. And it's using Whitney Avenue as a parking lot, and the noise, and they sometimes come out of the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what bar is open up at 3/restaurant. They come out and they're screaming and yelling. Sometimes I'm sleeping in my mom's house and I can hear them fighting and whatever.
And we can't sleep.
We can't sleep. I know, Mom. Cars are cutting through Whitney Avenue, as I said, and it's excessively, the speed is crazy. Okay. It's an expressway. I'm sorry to say that. Our kids and the residents are in danger. Please don't allow that lot to become, that's next to my mother, adhering to my mom's property, to become commercial. The neighborhood would suffer. I noticed that they just put up, somebody put up today. This is the first time I noticed it. I was here yesterday. I'm here almost every day to check on my mom and spend time with her. Sorry. I know parking this side of the street. And of course, there's a car parked right there. So the rule, the stop sign down the hill, people just drive right through it. There's two stop signs. There's one on Whitney and there's one on Broad Street. They just drive right through it. It's a dangerous, we're waiting for an accident to happen, unfortunately. So I would beg you not to make that lot into commercial, because people are gonna get hurt, as it is already dangerous enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I ask, what is the street address of your mom?
2 Whitney Avenue.
2 Whitney.
Yes, sir.
And the first photo that you showed,
Yes, sir.
was that traffic on Whitney looking to exit onto Newtown Road?
No, that was Whitney on the bottom of the hill, coming from Broad to Whitney
Oh,
and down.
got it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Commission members, any questions of Ms. Agora this time?
Commissioner Haddad?
Mr. Malillo, please.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to put on the record, just to document it, that I do know Dr. Agura. She and I are colleagues. We work together at Rogers Park. She did call me over the weekend, asking about how she would speak in opposition to this petition. We didn't talk about the petition. I did guide her how to find the link and to do that, but I did want to, because she did call me in advance of the public hearing. I did want to put on the record that we did speak about how she could access the meeting.
That's correct.
Thank you. So you spoke on procedure, public record.
Yes.
Thank you. Commission members, any other questions of Ms. Agora? Thank you. Mr. Chianese, wishing to speak in opposition. Councilman Chianese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Benjamin Chianese. I do live on 5 Briar Ridge Road. I'm also on the city council, but I do not represent any of my constituents in this matter. Just for the record, my brother-in-law and my wife are co-owners of a house on 7 Whitney Avenue. I think one of the letters was read into record this evening. I have spent a considerable amount of time researching this project, speaking at length at the Planning Commission, and uncovered a lot of the information that was in the staff report, which I think was an excellent written report. It had all the things that I brought up, so I'm not going to repeat that here. But I do just want to mention a few other items. I know in the Danbury News Times on May 23rd, there was an article about how Danbury needs at least 755 new homes and apartments to meet the demand over the next decade. I know the planning director was part of writing some of this article, and so was Councilman Rotello, but it does give you a sense of the need of residential property as we move forward. A lot of the focus is on the west side in the ward I represent, but what we're seeing is a lot of the residential neighborhoods in the urban core slowly being dwindled by commercial property. So I just want to let that out there, with the 6% increase in population over the next 10 years, there's going to be a bigger need in residential zones to be intact. So I know the plan of conservation is going to be looking at that in very much detail, but I just want to make that as part of the record. If I need to submit this, Sharon or Joanne, I will. So you have that for the record as well, the article. The other thing I just want to mention, what if scenarios. So, zone creep was mentioned by, in the planning report, and Attorney Marcus also mentioned that this would actually make the zone better. But if you look on the map on page 2 of the planning recommendation report, you'll see also property at 4 Whitney Avenue also abuts a CG20 zone. So if you use Attorney Marcus's logic, well, now you got to include 4 Whitney Avenue. Well, if you're going to include 4 Whitney Avenue, might as well go to 6 Whitney Avenue, because that abuts the old Mazoo's, and which is going to be the IHOP. So if you keep going down, you can see the word zone creep is happening. So if you approve one, you got to approve the other. It keeps moving down, further deteriorating your residential zone. Second point I just want to mention, and we just had this meeting a few weeks ago about hardships. What happens to 2 Whitney Avenue if this piece gets rezoned? Well, now you have a non-conforming house sitting on a CG20 zone. What happens if you tear down that house? What happens now? So now I have a piece of land that's CG20 that now I have the opportunity to have what? Sharon can correct me. How many uses? 74 uses in the CG20 zone?
There's
Something
a
like
lot.
that? A lot.
There's a lot.
A lot. So if I'm the owner of 2 Whitney Avenue, I have a piece of property that I can no longer develop. Guess what I have? A hardship. So if I have a hardship, guess what I can do? I could probably build anything I want on that CG20. Setbacks, uses, all goes out the window. So if I wanted to, hey, I could put a Dunkin' Donuts in there if I wanted to, as mentioned in the Planning Commission report. Remember, it's subject to be rezoned for any use allowed in the CG20 zone could partially be located on this parcel. Well, you're not just talking about the RA8 piece, you're also talking about the 2 Whitney Avenue piece as well. So, I mean, by allowing this zone change, you are opening up a more of a can of worms, so to speak. And you're further really going to deteriorate the neighborhood if you keep allowing changes in a residential neighborhood where a road is too small, traffic is going. It's just not the right place to have this zone change. It's RA8 now. A residential house could be built if they so choose to. So there's really no reason to change the zone. Like they said in 1988, I think, Teddy, you might have been on that zoning commission back then. I don't know about Rick, he might have been too. But what happened in 1988 still applies today. So I do hope that you vote in the negative for this application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chinese. Commission members, any questions of Councilman Chinese at this time? Commission members, any questions? I don't see any hands. I don't hear any voices. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Attorney Marcus, would you like to rebut?
Yes, sir, if I may for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, the comments that we heard from the public, I think I addressed in our presentation. I've heard them before at the Planning Commission. They're worried about the impact of traffic on Whitney, and as I say, that can certainly be controlled. But interestingly, I have to take a little bit of a different view. The comments that were actually said in opposition to changing this property to CG20 are actually, from a zoning perspective, the reasons you would change it. Everybody is saying traffic is a problem. It's no longer a quiet road was one of the comments I think I heard. And that's from Dr. Agora, who grew up there. And by the way, Bob, if you're taking credit for Dr. Agora's skill at getting onto the meeting, I don't understand why we couldn't hear her the first time. It makes absolutely no sense to me, but leave that aside. But I know her comment, I respect the fact that she said, well, now traffic is fast. A lot of the speakers said traffic is fast. There's more of it. It's a cut through. So all of those reasons would say, well, why are we keeping this particular property in the RA8 zone and subjecting some future homeowner on the prospective house that could someday be built on there to conditions which are no longer conducive to a residential zone? So again, to suggest that there's nothing different from 1988, the testimony, and people didn't do this with the intention of saying things have changed, so you could consider changing the zone. But in reality, that's what they did say. They did say things have changed, and that there'll be a negative impact of traffic. But on the other hand, I do believe that the property, if it is RE8 and combined with the rest of the parcel at CG20, can be controlled from a traffic point of view by any site plan or special permit that would apply to the special exception that would apply. Ben Chinisi brings up an interesting question. What happens to 2 Whitney Avenue? Well, in reality, 2 Whitney Avenue is a problem. And it's a problem because the official zoning map of the city of Danbury shows 2 Whitney Avenue as CG20. Then, of course, because we made this application, which determines that there was a mistake made some 33 years ago. My belief is, and I'm not opining on behalf of the city, but you may be stopped from claiming that that is not already a CG20 parcel. We'll leave that ultimately for a court to determine if that issue comes up. But think of my clients who bought this property looking at the city zoning map, and they believe that 2 Whitney Avenue is in fact CG20, and they rely on it. So, all we've got is an issue. But at the end of the day, the issue that you raise isn't of great concern because that property is so small that if you were to change it to CG20 and have it exist on its own, it would require 20,000 square feet, and it would require the Zoning Board of Appeals to grant all sorts of variances. So the use of 2 Whitney Avenue as CG20 separately standing parcel is so limited that I wouldn't ask this commission to give it a lot of concern. If I were the owner of the property, I might be concerned, but I don't think it's a concern in dealing with the subject that's before the commission today. But it creates a very interesting legal question as to what happens when your zoning map is in error for so many years and people rely on it. But that's a different issue. But at the end of the day, Farley Santos is the guy who's going to drive me nuts. And I don't think he intended to do that either. When I say drive me nuts, drive my client nuts, because for all the reasons he says that he's opposed to it, at the end of the day, he agrees that Manny's is an eyesore in a daycare center, might be a good use of the property. So the issue is, we are unwilling to take any risk, but at the end of the day, we would like to see the reward. We just got to figure out another way to get there. And quite honestly, I don't know of another way. This is the way to get there. So, as I say, I don't think that Councilman Santos intends to drive us nuts, but that's the comment that does drive us nuts, because the only reason, as I say, we're here is that our project actually makes sense. And again, back to Ben Chinise's comment, I agree. Housing is an issue, no question. But then again, if you read the rest of the paper where it doesn't say housing is an issue, it says classrooms are an issue, and we need space for children. And that's a serious problem. And again, this proposal that we have addresses that issue. So again, that drives my client a little bit nuts too. And when they've got a proposal that is just ended up in the classic catch-22. You can't escape the problem no matter how good an idea you have. And that's where we are. So I'm not going to disagree with any of the speakers that they perceive traffic to be a problem on Whitney Avenue. And I will only say that I look at it from a little different perspective from a zoning point of view. But I would ask the commission in concluding this to take a hard look at the property. If you haven't been out there, go out there and look at it and picture yourself as my client, who is, as I say, ready to, having invested a lot of money, ready to move forward with a project that most of us around the table, including the neighborhood opposition, would agree is actually a pretty decent project. And in the long range of things, if you look at the 77 odd uses in the CG20 zone, the one that we're proposing is probably the best for the neighborhood in all respects. So I'd ask you to go take a hard look and then see if you can come to the same conclusion that the only answer for this property, the whole property, the piece that's Manny's Autos and the piece that's before you for rezoning, the only use is to have one zone, and it's certainly not going to be RE8 up on Newtown Road, to have one zone for this parcel so that it could be of some economic and land use benefit to the city of Danbury and to the neighborhood. So that's where we are. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, final opportunity to question Attorney Marcus. Are there any questions? Mr. Malillo, please.
I got it, Neil. Actually, I wanted to ask two questions to you. And I'm curious, and only because you mentioned it, but you mentioned when your clients purchased the property on Whitney Avenue, they were aware of the CG, or at least on the zoning map to Whitney Avenue, it showed it as being CG20. I'm just curious, when about did they purchase that in as they were planning for the daycare facility, or were they longtime owners of that property?
No, my client, okay, the applicant is a longtime owner of Manny's Auto Parts. That's the applicant. My client has an option to purchase as a contract, and he's going to develop the daycare. So I have two applicants here. One has been a longtime owner, but the one who is relying on the zone map is the guy who comes in and says, I'm going to buy this property. And of course, they're concerned about what are the setbacks to Whitney Avenue and the requirement for the residential commercial buffer. And that's, is to say that it was a shock when Sharon advised me that she's discovered the mistake in the zoning map. By the way, I think she was shocked too. It's one of the few times that Sharon and I could share a shock together. But I think that it was, but it's a problem for the applicant.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't sure. I was sorry. I was under the impression that you were representing the Andre, since the current landowners, not the people who are looking to purchase the property.
Well, I am in this application because clearly their interests are aligned. If we can't, use the property, we can't buy the property. And the owners currently are anxious to sell it. It's been vacant and it's now classified as an eyesore for years. So,
just for clarification from my mind, when you were talking about the people looking to purchase the property, thinking that 2 Whitney was already CG20, you're talking about the people who are looking to purchase the property, not the current owners.
that's correct. That's correct. I'm talking about Newtown Road LLC.
Okay, yeah, I misunderstood what you had said. I thought you were talking about the current owners. My second question, and I'm just curious about this, and I can picture. In all respect, Attorney Marcus, I can picture you standing in front of us arguing that your client would have or maybe not in front of us, but maybe in front of the Planning Commission, arguing that your client could possibly turn left or have at least have an access to Whitney Avenue for the driveway because this parcel is zoned that way. And I just have to think about a couple other properties in Danbury, and I really think about Taco Bell. The Taco Bell over on the corner of Main Street and Clifton Place.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you. First of all, I'll be honest with you. I'm guilty as other people, but I'm okay. I live on a road that other people cut across. I've gone down Whitney Avenue a couple times, to avoid traffic to get to Beaver Brook under the construction, especially as I've been taking some students home in that vicinity. But I have been guilty also to leave Taco Bell and turn left onto Clifton Place to go down Smith Street, which we're not going to talk about Smith Street. That was a different public hearing. To come down so I could turn left onto Main Street, because sometimes it's a lot easier than trying to turn left onto Main Street from the Taco Bell parking lot. You mentioned that issue could be addressed. I'm curious how that issue could be addressed.
Well, we design a lot of driveways that make it literally, I doubt, you can always jump a curb. I mean, if you're nuts enough to do that. But a lot of the cars today are too low to allow that. But we design driveways that have clearly defined lanes to the left. The one that I'm thinking of, did you ever come out of Costco gas pumps onto Federal Road and see the exit there and think about it? Yeah, you probably could take a left, but you are so far off to the right that it takes the rare person that has the guts to do that. Now,
in all fairness, you're also talking Federal Road. Come on, Attorney Marcus.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but I'm just talking about the design of the driveway.
Yeah.
It's that type of design where you actually bring a curb around to the right, creates a very difficult left turn, and that's what we do. And as I say, is it absolutely foolproof? No. Does it work 90% of the time or more? Yeah. So until you get guys like you driving out of there.
For the record, I don't turn left out of Costco. I don't have a death wish, or not left out of the gas station part of Costco. Thank you, Commissioner Haddad.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mullo. Thank you, Attorney Marcus. Commission members, anything else of Attorney Marcus at this time? Commission members, I'm going to call on Ms. Calitro to see if she has any final comments. Let me just say that while Attorney Marcus raises the issue of the 2 Whitney Avenue error on the map, it's clear, very clear that the Zoning Commission denied that petition. It's on the record. It's on the transcripts. It's on the recordings. It was denied. So there was an error on recording that. Additionally, I don't think that that's any of us to consider here. We're looking at Whitney Avenue K12254 for a change of zone from RA8 to CG20. If I want to get even deeper into the woods on this, into the weeds on this, I think the present owner of the property probably owned it prior to 1988, before the Zoning Commission denied it, and should have passed that along to the contingent buyer. But that's, again, none of our concern here. Ms. Calitro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really, I don't have much to add. I mean, my report stands. I think it's pretty clear. I'm a little bit surprised by Attorney Marcus's kind of insinuation that they were just cruising along at the Planning Commission, because I don't think that was occurring at all. And there were a lot of questions raised. And then he, made reference to something being a bizarre ruling about the RA8, a daycare center in RA8. It's not so bizarre. Just open the zoning regulations. You can see what's required for a daycare center, which they wanted to build in an RA8 zone. Nothing bizarre about it. Just read the regulations. And again, I'm just going to remind the commission that any of those uses, whether it's permitted or by special exception, again, special exception via the planning commission, if the parcel were to be rezoned, would be allowed on a CG20 piece. That Whitney Avenue has remained a residential neighborhood from the parcels that fronted on Newtown Road, basically behind that onto Broad Street. Take it, you've I'm sure been down that street and heard testimony of it. Those houses have been there. The Agora house has been there for years and years and years. That residential neighborhood has been basically stable, which is why 30 years ago, the exact request to be rezoned from RA8 to CG20 was denied. So on that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Calitro. Commission members, any final questions of Ms. Calitro at this time? I think we're ready for a motion to continue or close.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Malillo.
prior to a motion to continue or close, I just, Attorney Marcus, in his original, or in his introductory remarks, he had encouraged commission members to visit this site and to see it for themselves, especially in relationship to the recommendation from the Planning Commission. So I'm curious whether any commission members were planning or thinking about doing that, because if they are, then we should continue the public hearing if they've wanted to report back on what they see.
Yes, commission members, it's historically been a policy of this commission. If anyone says they're not ready, they need to further study, they want to make either first site visit or driving by, it's not enough of a memory of theirs that they want to make another site visit for the rest of the commission members to yield to that. So if there is anyone here that wants to do a closer study of it or an on-site, say so, and we'll continue this meeting. If everybody seems to think that they have enough of it in their mind right now, then we can certainly close this public hearing. So if anyone wants to make any comments on whether they want to do a site visit on this again, Mr. Jowdy, your hand's up. We're looking for Mr. Jowdy to disconnect his, to reopen his microphone.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Jowdy.
I'm sorry?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I can't hear myself back, but that's okay. I've heard a lot of comments from people on Whitney Avenue, a lot of traffic and so forth. Everything, it's taken with the grain of salt. Everything's understood. They don't want it. There's good points for reasons for that. But I would like to say that maybe if any other commission members, I'm okay to stay and vote, but if any other commission members feel that we should table this and go take a look, that's fine with me. I think what's happening on that road, and I don't want it to be confused with the application, is, yeah, there's a lot of traffic, but there's also a lot of traffic that's being diverted through that road. So keep in mind and take that off of the situation that's going on, because it's not going to be that way all the time. I mean, the residents might say that there is a lot of traffic all the time because there's a lot of cut throughs, but I don't believe that it's as bad as it is now. And the only reason why is because of the construction. So if anybody wants to table it and take a look, I'm fine. I'm fine either way, but I just wanted to, present those points.
Thank you, Mr. Jowdy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask any commission members, if there's anyone wishing to do an on-site visit or visit it again between now and our next meeting, to make their preference to that known now. If not, we'll then entertain a motion of either direction and see how it flies. Commission members, anybody have any comments on that? Any comments, commission members? I don't see any hands. Mr. Almeida?
Mr. Chairman, I'm pretty familiar with the area. I've done some work in that area in the past, and if anything, I think that neighborhood has become more residential because I think it was a decade or so ago, 3 houses were built on Gallagher, 3 modulars, which I was involved with that project. So I'm familiar with the area. I'm pretty comfortable. I think we can pretty much close this out and go forward from there.
So then this is what we're going to do. If Mr. Almeida is going to make a motion to close the public hearing, we'll look to see if there's a second. If it's seconded under the discussion of this motion and the second, we'll see if any commission members comment on that. So Mr. Almeida, you want to make that motion to close this public hearing?
I'll make that motion to close this public hearing, yes.
Sounds good. Is there a second to that?
I'm comfortable seconding that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Malillo is going to second that. So we have a motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Almeida, second by Mr. Malillo. And now's the time for any other commission members to discuss. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? A yes is yes, a no is no. A yes would be to close the public hearing. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? I do not hear any opposition. I do not see any opposition. So this public hearing is closed. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any continuation of any public hearing? And I believe, Mr. Malillo, please unmute. Did the commission move to old business?
Yes, we did. We moved it to old business.
I'm gonna go to the old business section. I'm gonna give the gavel to you, and then I'll have you read its history back in.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Haddad. Item number 1 under old business for discussion and possible action. This is the petition of Berkeley Insurance Company and Compass Health Connecticut Real Estate LLC to amend the master plan of the reserve for tax assessor lot number B 15005. Amend Phase 9B, non-residential uses not serving the immediate needs of the residential development from 100,000 square feet of commercial use to 100,000 square feet as a physical medical facility, inpatient use, March submission. This public hearing was opened this evening, closed this evening, and moved to old business this evening. Just as a reminder, we need to, in a motion, if we're doing a motion to approve, we need to find that the proposed development is consistent with the plan of conservation and development and the comprehensive planning program on which the plan is based. The environmentally sensitive areas are adequately protected. The proposed development is in substantial harmony with the surrounding area. The existing streets, including proposed street improvements and proposed streets proving access to the site, are adequate to support anticipated traffic volumes at acceptable levels of service. Existing and proposed public facilities are adequate to serve the proposed development, and that municipal sewer and water service is adequate to serve the proposed PND can be provided. So I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Hylinski? The nodding yes, is that a motion?
Yes, I will make that motion. So move.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Hylinski, seconded by Commissioner Fay, for the reasons stated in the staff report, which I just read into the record. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. A yes vote will be to approve the petition. A no vote will be to deny. Commissioner Hylinski?
Yes.
Commissioner Hawley?
Yes.
Commissioner Fay?
Yes.
Commissioner Eriquez? Commissioner Eriquez?
Yes.
Commissioner Almeida?
Yes.
I too will vote yes. That is 6-0 with 3 members not voting. Motion is approved. Congratulations, and good luck with the endeavor, Attorney Mizuko. We wish your clients well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. We appreciate your support tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Haddad, I will return the gavel to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And good luck. We have nothing under new business. We have nothing under correspondence. For reference only, we have a petition of D&B Wellness to amend sections 5A, 5F2, 5B, 3B, and 5B, 5F1 of the zoning regulations, in parentheses, delete prohibition on drive-through window for medical marijuana dispensary. The public hearing is scheduled for June 8th, 2021. This date is subject to change depending upon circumstances related to COVID-19. Are there any other matters? Are there any other matters? Are there any?
Commissioner Haddad?
Yes, sir. Mr. Malillo.
If I may, just for the purpose for the residents on Whitney Avenue who showed up this evening and a couple of them who are still remaining, just want to let them know that automatically the petition regarding Whitney Avenue will move to old business on our next meeting. No new information will be taken because we did close the public hearing, but we potentially will take action either at that meeting or a meeting to follow.
Yes, thank you. That is correct. So commission members, we will have a new petition on June 8th, and we will have one under the Newtown Road parcel. Any other matters? Any other matters? Any other matters? Anyone wishing to make a motion to adjourn? Unless am I forgetting something? I don't think so. We're good to go at 10:07 if there's a motion. Mr. Jowdy makes a motion to adjourn. Second by Mr. Almeida. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Not hearing any opposition. We are closed, adjourned at 10:08. Thank you, everyone.